So we're here at Riverside Park. It's pre-match, and I've got Graham Hogg alongside me. You're going to be joining me for the game later on this afternoon as Jedforest welcome Hawick to Riverside Park, and it's glorious here today, and it's a big game for, before the game kicks off. It's a big game for both sides.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a big game for both teams, as you've mentioned. Obviously Hawick had a pretty poor result a couple of weeks ago up at Glasgow Hawks, and unfortunately never got back on the horse last week with the Aberdeen game being off. Obviously with the Jed side, they've had a bit of a turmoil in the last 7 days, so they'll be looking to go out and put a good stamp in it today.
Yeah, I think a lot's been said of obviously Scott Tomlinson leaving his role as head coach at Jed. Obviously Neil Cook coming in as interim coach to look after them for the foreseeable. I heard Gregor Young obviously on about it before the game as well. He's looking to help out as well. I don't think we need to dwell on it too much. There's a lot of big players in this Jed team though. I think we recall them all the time. They've got the youngs are fundamental for Jedforest. Don Buckley is a big player as well, and Darren Gillespie. They're all big players, and it's difficult for somebody like Scott Tomlinson who's come in, who's maybe not got a lot of experience or at the top level. There's a difficult group to manage, and just in general terms, it's difficult for coaches to come in and get that respect of players that have been here for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at the job that Scott's done since he came in. Obviously I've read up on it, and he was obviously here for the last maybe year and a half, 2 years. So obviously with COVID being involved, he's not had any opportunities as such before this time to actually play some games. Yes, he may have some time to put some sort of obviously plans and such in place, but obviously as we both know, playing games at this type of level, still need to win these games. That is it's still a business at the end of the day, even at this level, and they've obviously found that difficult this season.
Yeah, you can speak for yourself for playing rugby at this level. I was a wee bit below that. But on the other side of things, you've got Matty Douglas, who's a young coach who's up and coming. He's got his head pretty screwed on as to what he wants to do, and you'll be working closely with him with the DO stuff, and it's sort of a different team that Hawick have in terms of they've got a lot of young players coming through. And is it easier to manage as a young coach, managing a young group of players?
I think obviously Hawick didn't have their troubles to seek at the beginning of the season either, with Stuart Johnson obviously leaving just before the season started. Now, as you mentioned, Matty is a young coach, but he's obviously got Manto Landers beside him who obviously goes without saying gets a massive amount of respect from the younger boys and from everybody in Hawick in general. And he put that alongside Matty. Obviously he didn't have a massively long playing career, but he just loves rugby. Every time I speak to him, whether it's first thing in the morning or it's silly o'clock at night, if we're sort of debating some stuff, he just loves the game and he looks really in depth to it. And so obviously with the two of them working together, it's got the combination that could really work well over the next couple of years. Yeah,
I think when we spoke to Matty Douglas before, when we were doing the show during the week, he does come across very invested in rugby. He obviously puts the hours in. He does a lot of outreach stuff as well, like speaking to the likes of George Graham, getting advice. Now, for a player who was a very well thought of player when he was younger, he obviously played a bit for Kelso and for Hawick. He obviously had the time where Hutton was playing as well. Like, he had a lot of players, to try and nudge out of that jersey. Unfortunate for him, he's had to obviously hang up his boots, but it shows there's different roles in rugby, and obviously you're now youth development officer at Hawick Rugby Club as well, eventually coming back to your hometown club. How's that going just now?
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. I absolutely love it, to be fair. I love how much variety is in the role. Now, I've done development roles all over the place. I've done a little bit in Italy. I've obviously done some stuff in London and in Yorkshire as well, but the big thing for me was always, when I was in these other roles, what could I bring back to Hawick? This was a job that I've always looked for, wanting to be able to do, and I'm just massively grateful for the club for the opportunity. As I say, no 2 days are the same. We've just had literally our first TD trier session this morning, which was literally 2 to 4 year olds, and then I'm coming down on the bus with these guys and speaking about what backs moves and stuff we're going to be using. So it's one of those, and I just absolutely love it. I love the last couple of months, and it's going well so far. Yeah,
obviously when I was started playing rugby, obviously I was aware of you, and I knew you were Hawick through and through. But it's nice to see somebody come back to their own club. It's something which is, I think, in the borders now, it's difficult to try and retain players. It's difficult to try and retain anybody. Like, if you look at Jed, I think it's going to be difficult to try and really attract a top calibre coach down here. I think it is going to be a difficult one, and I hope they do. But it's nice to see. What are your ideas? What are your projects at Hawick? What are you looking to try and do in a town which is rich in rugby history?
Yeah, Hawick is massively rich in rugby history, but I've had the conversation with these guys numerous times when I first came in, and we can't just rely on Hawick's history anymore. We need to do something completely different. The world's changed, society's changed, Hawick's changed as a place. And the big thing for me, Dale, is just coming in. I just want kids, especially who I'm working with, just to enjoy the game. I want to get the Hawick brand out there. I want them to know what Mansfield Park is. I want them to know what it means to wear a green jersey. But I want them to enjoy it. I want them to enjoy the game first and foremost. And we've just brought a lot of different stuff in terms of when I've came into the role, just barely getting them engaged and getting them with a smile on their face and wanting to come to training on a Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday, whatever it may be. My partner will say it's literally every single night just now, and it's time consuming, but no, and we're getting there. We're getting numbers there, we're getting smiles on faces, and it's going well so far.
But it's doing something you enjoy, isn't it? Like it doesn't. Other people may disagree, but if you're spending that time doing something that you're getting something out of, not only is it good for those round about you, it's good for yourself doing something you enjoy. But branching over, is this just under the umbrella of Hawick Rugby Club, or is it Hawick is the town? Going over to the Lundeen, or is it something which you kind of look? Or what's your thoughts on that? Because it's always something that when I speak to Hawick people from work, Robert Borthwick, Craig Rogerson, the likes, who's your cousin, I believe, but when you speak,
Stuart's cousin.
Oh well, he's everybody's got a very strong opinion because it's as I say, a historic rugby town. So where does it stop and start your role?
Yeah, honesty call, it doesn't start and stop anywhere now. It is the whole of Hawick. Now, as we just mentioned, Hawick has changed as a place, it's changed as a society, and we haven't got the privileged position now of saying we're just branching and we're looking after these Hawick players. So again, that was one of the things we spoke about when I first came in. We needed to look after everybody now. So I do a lot of work with the Hawick youth, which is technically not under the Hawick RFC banner, but I look after especially their 15s and 16s squad. I've been fortunate enough to do a couple of sessions with the Lundeen this year, and we're just trying to bring everybody as one. Now, I just love rugby. I love getting out there. I love my sort of Tuesday, Thursday nights, every night, as we've just spoken about, and going out and helping players and helping teams be the best they can be. So, as I say, we're in that position where I just want we as a club, not just me specifically, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, that it's not just me, that we want to incorporate everybody and just make Hawick rugby as strong as we possibly can going forward. Yeah,
and I think that's something that I was actually travelling down with your captain, Matty Carrier, and we were speaking about that in terms of the different things that throw up. Our friend Greg Rayburn's injured, and it's difficult to try and, as somebody who volunteers to play for a club, trying to get him back on the field. And I think that's great what you're saying, because clubs, they need to serve their players. Players don't have to serve their clubs as much. It works both ways. That's what clubs are for, is building that community. But also, it's great to see from a youngster point of view. You've got people starting from page 2 up to the likes of last night. We've seen a pro game, and we've got Glenn Young, who's ex-Jed. He's played a lot of rugby down south, and we've got Darcy Graham. So it's Jed versus Hawick today, but both are scoring tries in the pro game for Edinburgh last night. That shows that the border still has a lot to offer in terms of rugby, and it starts with getting the youngsters into the game early. Yeah, no, absolutely. Just going speaking about Glenn's obviously had a tough journey when he's went up to Edinburgh, obviously being injured the last few years. But Glenn, I first heard about Glenn a couple of years before he went down to Newcastle, and I got told that obviously the Youngs, the twins here, are obviously really good players, but I got told about a cousin who was probably going to be the best one of them all, and they're probably not too far wrong, are they? If you look at his performance last night, obviously getting on the score sheet for the first time, and obviously he's playing. You've obviously got Marshall Sykes and guys like that who got capped in the autumn, and he's starting in front of them. So obviously the future's very bright for Glenn, and I wish him all the best. Yeah, especially for Scotland, especially the squad that just got announced. It's filled with talent, and like Darcy Graham I remember watching him in the cup final against Boroughmuir. It was one of my first years commentating, and just from then I've just attached myself to him. I think he's a great player, but he finds it difficult to get in, the starting Scotland squad now, alongside your brother Stuart at fullback. That back three, it's a really competitive area for the national team. And that's a big thing about the whole national team now, Dale, isn't it? That there is competition for places. Maybe sort of 10 years ago now, when Stuart got his first cap, there wasn't that sort of
trying to get a place. It was pretty easy if you were playing well in the pro side. You were straight in. That's let's not beat about the bush. That's what Scottish rugby was up until a few years ago. So yeah, there's competition for places in all facets of the game. You look at the back row, which is going to be really interesting over the next few months. For me, in the back three, Darcy plays. He brings a point of difference. He brings something massively different to what that Scotland team has. And as a finisher, there's very few that are better going about, especially in the Northern Hemisphere.
I totally agree. And in terms of Stuart, obviously had a big game last week. You were down spectating, I think enjoying the hospitality perhaps.
It's a lovely place.
Yeah, I did see a couple of photos flying about on social media, but that's a big game for him and also for you as well, because you are very close as brothers. You can see that. Like I don't know you as much as what I'm probably trying to allude to, but you can see that your relationship is very strong, and that's a big game because Glasgow's where he made his name.
Yeah, no, he obviously spent 9-10 seasons at Glasgow, and it was a massive game for Stuart, but every game's a massive game, obviously at that level, but just with that little bit again of something that bit different. He got it pretty tight, to be fair, when he was up at Scotstoun. Nobody would have seen that because obviously nobody could see the game with the amount of fog and stuff. So yeah, he enjoyed that one last week. But the big thing for me as a brother, he's enjoying all rugby just now. He had a bit break just after the Lions tour. I've went on record saying it numerous times that there's very few players that went a full calendar year playing for trophies and playing at that top end, and he was one of them. So he needed a break, and there's a smile on his face. And as I say, taking the rugby side of things out, just as a brother, we want to see your family enjoying themselves, and we certainly did that last weekend. Yeah,
it did look like that. Let's bring it back to like a Hawick side of things. I know obviously we've got a big fixture ahead of us this afternoon, but in terms of the season, what's a good season for Hawick?
I think it's a double edge to that question, Dale. If we had conversations before the Curry game at the start of the season, and don't need to lie about it, the big thing was staying up in Premier 1. We weren't sure. Obviously we mentioned obviously the change in coaching structure just before the season sort of started, but then obviously that Curry game, that one game, basically changed everything. We went on a decent run from that, and now obviously asking that question now, for me, it has to be top four. We need to be in that top four, and then, as you know, when you get into knockout rugby, anything can happen. But if we were unfortunate not to get into that position now, I think it would go down both from coaches and players, more importantly players, a poor season, because we deserve to be in that top four and we can't fall off now.
Yeah, I think so. I think especially looking back at the previous fixture between Hawick and Jed. Hawick were head and shoulders above Jed on that day. Jed made a fist of it in the second half, but the game was already won. But it's almost been the kind of song of Hawick's season that they've just not been able to push themselves over the line. But there's still a lot of rugby to be played in this season, and obviously we're just awaiting this fixture ahead of us at 3 o'clock, so it's certainly set up to be a very interesting battle. But very good to chew the fat with you just before the game there, Graham. That was lovely.
Thank you. Cheers, Dale.